Hey guys, Ridiculous Badger here from Planet 545, and I want to talk about this guy. It is the Grand Commander Prasma. Comes around in an A-class event. There's Oracle events, there's Release 10 events, there's a ton of ways to get him because, in my opinion, he should be on every single captain, player, commander's roster. I don't think he. I wouldn't try maining him, but I'm sure it can be done. There's a lot of comms people say everybody should have these comms because Stella is free and she does damage. And that's not. Look, yes, that's true. But Plasma, everybody needs a Plasma. Every single person. He doesn't have to be S class because I personally the reason that I use Plasma, the reason you should use Plasma has nothing to do with the Awakening skill. Although the reason to get him to S class would be to use him to absorb leadership, which is the most efficient way to boost him up. So if you're a player that has an investment that you want to protect, or you want to bleed the enemy for points in Galactic, or you want to set a bunch of traps for kill event points and cheese like that, then you get them to S class. I think get them to S class. A big Plasma can be super scary, super duper scary. So when I started this game, I heard about Plasma, and the word on the street was that Plasma is this commander that you can play one of two ways. You play him as either a what's called fighter Plasma, or you play him as a bomber Plasma, or Plasma bomber. And that's based on which of his skills you decided to go and invest in. So the two skills he has are energy transfer, which is tied into your dodge. It's a 40% chance to proc. The slot that procs it gets the little blue arrows. You've seen them, they point up. And if that slot gets attacked again and it dodges the enemy attack, then you do damage directly to the enemy, which is great. It breaks through Rogers' defensive stance, although it doesn't do enough damage for him to beat Rogers. Dodger Plasma is not a counter to Rogers. Although it does proc 40%, it's not 20% proc, so it's a great skill. And if you were going to be a Plasma fighter, then you would go way into dodge and attack. And you would use this skill. And if you use Quantum Blast, then you're a Plasma Bomber. And this skill, everybody knows about this one. This is the iconic Plasma skill. And it procs every single time you lose a stack or the troops in the slot die. They perish. Then you do damage to every one of the enemy slots, and it's a very powerful ability, and putting a Plasma in a strategic point is enough to give anybody pause before just attacking. It could be a punishing commander if built properly to go up against. So this skill causes 1.5% per level of damage of HP that the slot had before it was deaded, and it does that to the enemy, to each of the enemy slots. So it maxes out when it's level 60, it does 90% of the HP in that slot. And here's the caveat: damage cannot exceed 200% of normal attack. And that line at the end is what makes Plasma such a misunderstood commander. He is confusing. So let's continue talking about the skills a little bit. It seems like the way that you build a fighter Plasma, like I said, is you go dodge attack. The way that you build a bomber Plasma is you go HP, but you also need some attack. And that's not the case at all. It's easy to look at all your gear and go, well, this thing has plus 105% HP, and this thing has plus 34.5% HP. So if I then add this thing, it's we're not comparing percentages here. Percentages on your gear, they're buffs that you apply to the troop stats that would be in that slot. So we'll get more into the math of this next time, but it's important to take a look if you haven't delved into this before. And there are plenty of players who haven't. The level 21 players who maxed out their research who haven't, and that's fine, but take a second and go through it. I have infantry as my main troop type, and I have max infantry research. And when you have max infantry research, or max any research for that matter, you've two stats that are going to be plus 240% of their stat based on your research, and then the rest are going to be plus 120. So for infantry, it's plus 240 dodge, and it's plus 240 attack. That 12 there is representative of 240% of 5 is 12. So if you add your research to the base stat, it's 340%. So then if you start to take your gear, if you have a plus 100 attack from gear, it's another plus 5. So what we'll get much more into next time is, as you can see, the HP on this T1 Ranger is 8 times the attack of the T1 Ranger. And now should be making a little bit more sense as to what this skill is actually saying. 100% chance to trigger after being killed. Damage dealt to all enemy troops, which is equal to the 76.5% HP of the troops before being killed. Damage cannot exceed 200% of normal attack.